rail ministry people be in the meeting when you come over.
Yes.
But over and above the logistics, which is what is necessary for them to hear, if there's anything more, you can always send us a note prior to the meeting date so that we'll be prepared when you come.
So we'll prepare a detailed note which can be the basis of the discussion.
Yes, please. You send the note, we'll have the time, mutually convenient time fixed up so that you can come over and explain it to us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to Ms. Rajakumari, Head Women Entrepreneur Cell, Varai Hotel, Madurai.
Respected Madam, I appreciate your budget 2022. அதில் ஒரு பெரிய ப்ளஸ் என்னென்னா மேடம், நல்ல ஸ்டெபிலிட்டியும் இது கிளாரிட்டியும் கொடுத்துருக்குறீங்க. அண்ட் ஆக்சுவலாக most of the industries are also happy about it. UN தீமில் வந்து இந்த வருஷம் it is for sustainable. So lots of initiatives have been brought up by our Prime Minister Ji for women empowerment and entrepreneurship, and a lot of schemes and loans and subsidies, very motivating. And there has been 4.3% allocation on the gender budget as well. And I have attended the CSW in the United Nations and represented for the women empowerment and entrepreneurship. But the major two concerns I would like to bring here is on the interest of women entrepreneurs, including the disability women and the differently abled and the marginalized women. Women are a big task force from kitchen to boardroom. They face a lot of peculiar challenges, responsibilities and commitments, and the level playing has to be established. They have to bring a sort of balance. So, Madam, the scoring has to be at the entry point, I feel. If the GST registrar for registering GST, I think it is below 40 lakhs, which has been the present scenario here. We would like to make an humble request whether that could be taken to 1 crore. And the service sector, I think it is 20 lakhs, which could be taken to 80 lakhs. And subsequently, the compound system from 1.5 to 3. And I'm sure I can understand the challenges implementing this, because will be the shadows of men behind, and lots of tinkering and corrections will be happening at that time. But some solutions, I feel like we could have a series of accreditation and certification for those who are filing under these benefits, and bringing a lots of check and control points so that the system itself should not be abused. And after the initial hazards, I think we'll involve, and it will take us a long way. And the next point I would like to insist on, Madam, like since it is post-corona, we have a lot of homepreneurs coming in. Of course, they are shining, and it's not very transparent. But when it comes to growing and scaling, there are a lot of gray areas. Certain things are holding them back. They are being treated without dignity. They are provoked towards litigation. And there is a ruler-slaver attitude among the officials, very sensitive and a psychological play on that. So these things, I think it can be addressed when decision-making panels are brought with women, and sensitizing officers, especially from the GST, to bring it on this board. So, Madam,
Sorry, just 1 minute.
Yeah.
Which is this category that you mentioned, ma'am?
For the GST registration, Madam?
No, when you started speaking about this part of your conversation, it relates to some set of people.
No, it's generally for the women when we address. Okay. It's for the women. So the national building and the ease of doing business, it stands more on the level playing. To set an example, ஒரு என்னோட இதில் அப்சர்வேஷன் மேடம், கால்ஃபில் கூட பார்த்தீங்கன்னா லெவல் பிளேயிங்னா ஒரு 2 ஸ்டெப்பு முன்னாடி பெண்களுக்கு கொடுத்துருவாங்க. So that sort of thing, somewhere, some scoring.
நான் கோல்ஃப் விளையாடுனது இல்லம்மா, எனக்கு புரிஞ்ச மாதிரி ஒரு உதாரணம்
நான் ஒரு
கொடுங்க.
எக்ஸாம்பிள் சும்மா சொல்றேன் மேடம். லெவல் பிளேயிங்கோட இதுக்கு அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்டிங்.
மதுரையில கோல்ஃப் விளையாட முடியுதா? கொஞ்சம் தண்ணி கஷ்டம் நினைச்சேன் வைகையில. வைகையில தண்ணியே இருக்காதே.
இல்ல மேடம்,
எப்படி ஒரு கோல்ஃப் கோர்ஸ் நடக்குது? பரவாயில்லைங்க.
The level
மதுரை எல்லா
playing-
விதத்திலும் தனிப்பட்ட மதுரை தான்
it
இல்லைங்களா?
Meenakshi, madam, it's for dynamism. And so we would like to have more mentoring cells should be brought for handling gender sensitive issues, madam. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.
Next we have Mr. Jayakumar Srinivasan, Director, Neyveli Lignite Corporation.
Really privileged to get this opportunity, ma'am. And it's an opportunity to thank for various policy initiatives, particularly in the last year and a half, in terms of, for the power sector, in terms of Atmanirbhar liquidity scheme, which has really rejigged the power sector. And we are ready for the investments challenges that are ahead. Also, in terms of the national asset monetization pipeline, the Vivad Se Vishwas, all this has significantly contributed for the revitalization of the thing. The budget 22-23 has all the right ingredients for taking up the challenge of the asset, this energy transition also. And a few suggestions over here, if it is possible to incorporate in some form that the kind of investment that will be needed up to 2030, the target-based imperatives. So some kind of tax concessions which used to be available for power sector when the demand was chasing supply. Now it is a supply-oriented thing where we have to set up nearly 5-fold increase in the capacity up to 2030. Can we have some similar kind of tax incentive is one part. The other is the asset monetization which we are taking up for unlocking value from the existing brownfield projects and trying to reinvest it in the new renewables. There are some GST implications which would take away the value from that. So if some thought can be given at that point of time. The third thing I will draw attention is on the coal sector side, some of the captive mines which are allocated for end-use plants. If it is a long drawn distance, it is traveling through various states, and the GST compensation is adding to the already the long distance increases the delivered cost of coal, and this 400 rupees per ton of GST compensations, if it can be waived off for same entity. Now it is technically, because it is different state and different registration number, it is adding to the thing, and ultimately the power don't get delivered if it is not figuring in the merit order. Few suggestions. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for your suggestions. I'll also like to hear from you as to what are your plans on transitioning from thermal to anything else which is more environment friendly. And I'm sure you can always meet us in the North Block and discuss this, being a government entity.
Most certainly. We'll come down. Thank
Right?
you. Yeah.
Dr. G. Vishwanathan, Founder and Chancellor, Vellore Institute of Technology, Vellore.
Thank you, Madam, for the opportunity. I represent the education sector of the country. You know that we are lagging behind in education, particularly higher education. Our gross enrollment ratio is only about 27%. Our Prime Minister wants it to take to 50%, almost doubling. Unless we get your help, we will not be able to do this. The problem of availability, affordability, and quality. These are the three problems facing higher education, particularly higher education. Recently, The war in Ukraine has opened our eyes. We have around 20,000 students in Ukraine, mostly studying medicine because of the problem of availability and affordability. The Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister also mentioned about it yesterday and said that our students are going to small countries and they spend their money there, the hard-earned foreign exchange. This could be resolved by increasing the budget on education. For the last 50, 60 years, commission after commission has recommended that 6% of the GDP should be spent on education. We have not crossed 3 or 3.5%. That's the main thing. The other thing is, already education is over-controlled. You must be knowing, wherever there is more control, there will be more corruption. That is what is happening in education. Nobody will tell you because it's very normal. We start with the taluk, district, state, and national level. Apart from it, I want you to help to cut down the cost, control the cost of education. Now we are paying 18% GST on construction of buildings. It increases the cost of education. Again, you have given exemption to the outsourced services only up to school level. I request you to extend it to the colleges and universities also, so that the cost could be brought down and poor and middle class also will have the opportunity to come and study in the colleges and universities. Another important point is the research. We are lagging behind in the world ranking, mainly because of research facilities and research personnel. There we require our help. I want a separate organization or bank which will take care of the needs of the higher education institutions in the country. Previously, whatever foreign exchange we earned through NRI students and foreign students, we were allowed to use it for import of equipments in the universities and colleges. Now it has been restricted to 5%, and that too to buy scripts. I would request you to restore the old order so that it will be useful for us to import important equipments from outside the country. Another thing is, we are allowed only 15% of funding of the total to be kept for the corpus fund or spending in the future. It's not enough to create enough corpus fund. I would request you to increase that, maybe 25%, whatever it is, along after discussion with the officials, which will be useful for us to create more corpus funding, which will be useful to, like time of COVID or any other problems. These are the things I want to bring out. Overall, I would like you to help education so that this country can also compete with other countries and become an advanced country. Without higher education, particularly the professional education, we can never become an advanced country. Thank you very much.
First, on your point about spending 6% of the GDP on education, which commission after commission has said, I would also point out that first, this is a joint responsibility of center and states. It is not a union responsibility. In fact, primarily it is not a union responsibility. Second, commission after commission has also pointed out that India has one of the lowest tax to GDP ratios in the world. So 6% for education, 3% for health, certain percentage for defense, certain percentage for R&D. These are the demands that we continuously hear. But that will mean that our tax to GDP ratio has to double from its present level of 10 to 11%. But in your own remarks, you have said you want the taxes to be reduced further. So there is a conundrum. We cannot compare ourselves to countries which have tax to GDP ratios of 40%, like the United States, when we look at our expenditure side of the budget. So the expenditure side of the budget's growth will critically depend on the growth of the tax side of the budget also, and I would seek the cooperation of all those present here. If you can tell us where we can raise more taxes painlessly from all of you. because that will help us to then spend on health, on education, giving all these concessions. We'll be very happy to do it if we have the revenue, but without that there are limitations. And it is probably 6% will come when the tax GDP ratio reaches what those commissions have said on the tax GDP ratio also. As regards the specific points on trusts, etc.
I think
before Tarun comes in, I don't think anyone here will mistake me. It always helps to have a bureaucrat also talk in such situations. ஒரு அரசியல்ல இருக்கிறவங்க யாரும் சொல்ல முடியாத விஷயத்தை சிலது அதிகாரிகள் சொல்லிடுவாங்க. நான் சொல்ல விரும்பல, நாங்க முயற்சி பண்றோம் எஜுகேஷன் நிறைய ஸ்பெண்ட் பண்ணணும்னு, பட் எங்களுக்கு ரிசோர்ஸ் லிமிட்டேஷனையும் நம்ம யோசிக்க வேண்டியிருக்கு. அதனால நீங்க சொல்ற ஒவ்வொரு பாயிண்ட்டையும் நான் மதிப்பு கொடுத்து கேட்டுக்கிறேன். நீங்க சொல்றது வெரி வேல்யூபிள் அண்ட் அப்சல்யூட்லி கிரிட்டிக்கல் பாயிண்ட்ஸ். பிரதமர் ஐயா அதை தான் முயற்சி பண்றாரு. Capacity, college admissions, university admission, professional education seats, increase the number of seats as much as we are increasing the number of aims all over the country. அப்படின்னு சொல்றதெல்லாம் இருக்கு. ஆனால் அதுக்கு வேணுங்கிற ரிசோர்ஸ் நம்மளுக்கு மொபிலைஸ் ஆகணும். அதுக்கான முயற்சி பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கோம் through use of technology. But the tax base has to widen and it helps therefore to have Somanathan next to me. நான் சொல்ல முடியாத சில வேப்பக்காய் விஷயங்கள் அவரும் சொல்லிடலாம்.
The FS has already answered a bit of your question on the 6% GDP for education. I also want to tell you and the audience here that our tax to GDP ratio today is approximately 10.5. This year we might touch 11. So if I spend 6 here, then there is interest. So the other things he's already mentioned, so I'll not repeat that. The other thing that I want to say, which is your 15% issue, I'll come to that. This may not be true of VIT or some of those kind of institutions, but we also know that some of these no-profit, no-loss institutions are actually for huge profit institutions. And the profits are taken out through various means, which we are also aware of. In spite of that, we are closing our eyes and allowing tax exemption to such institutions. I think there is also a need for people to rise up and say that there should be more curbs on the way you can spend money so that it is actually a no profit, no loss. I also want to tell you what you said was 15%. Let me explain to you what happens. If you get a donation of 100 rupees in the year 22-23 or 21-22, let's take 21-22, you have 5 years to spend 85 rupees out of that 100 rupees for the objectives that you have mentioned. The whole idea is that if people are giving donation for a cause and they are getting tax exemption from the government, then this money should be spent for that cause. Otherwise, the rich and the super rich people will have this trust operation where they can park their money. So asking that 85% of the money should be spent in the 5 years is not asking too much. 15% you can spend anywhere. Your issue about the corpus, if that is so, if somebody donates to your corpus, you can take it to the corpus. There is no bar under the present provisions that you cannot take it to the corpus. But if it is a corpus, then it cannot be used for the expenditure. If you use it for the expenditure, you have to replenish it over a period of time. So I think the provisions that are there have been kept because there is no tax there. So better that I have an objective of taking care of health, taking care of education, doing something else which is charitable. I should actually be spending money on those kind of things. So these are some conditions which are put up. If they are not there, then maybe the money may not be spent by everybody.
Thank you, sir. We next have Mr. S. Ilanahai, President, Chemical Industry Association.
Thank you for the opportunity. We would like to extend the PLI scheme for chemical industries also, madam, because it is one of the important industries in India which needs support. Second thing, that rationalization of the import duty for the basic blocks like ethylene, propylene and all, zero duty, and 10% for all other chemicals, it could be helpful to the industries. If there are dumping such chemicals, we would like to have 15% duty. The PLI scheme is not extended to chemical sector. Duty when it comes, we want to have a uniform zero duty for all building blocks, ethylene, propylene, butylene, those things. And again, a rational 10% duty for all chemicals and 15% for chemicals which are being dumped to India from countries like China, so that it will be a protection for the domestic sector.
I don't remember the exact number, but for the chemicals, we have reduced the duties this time. We have not brought it to zero, but we have reduced the duties to 2.5 to 5% on the chemicals, I think polypropylene and ethylene also. The whole idea of the customs duty, for which a lot of discussion and consultation was held before this budget, was that whatever raw material or chemicals like this are not available in the country, reduce duties on them. Intermediate products which are not being made, there also you bring down the duties so that those could be imported. But if there's a PMP program, then allow the domestic industry to get into that. And for finished products which can be made in India or are made in India, you increase the duties, but increase them to moderate levels like 7.5 to 10%, so that the Indian industry remains competitive. So you can check it up. I think we have reduced the duties on chemicals in this particular budget.
Thank you, sir, for that clarification. We next have Mr. Sanjay Jayavardhanavelu, Chairman and Managing Director, Lakshmi Machine Works Limited, Coimbatore.
Madam, thank you for having arranged this interactive session with us here today. I represent the capital equipment industry for both textile spinning as well as general engineering. And this is sometimes considered as the backbone mother of all manufacturing. Our industry is moving, as we know, towards from automation to digitization to AI. And we also have a chance now to export our products to many countries and increase the brand value of India. What we face when we export is not just technology or brand, but also financing. Most of the countries offer financing to their customers there, which are also being insured. So we have a chance to increase our exports manifold if that facility also could be provided to us. So a humble request is that if that can be also considered, ma'am. Thank you.
Dr. A. Shaktivel, President, Federation of Indian Export Organizations, Chennai.
Respected Honorable Minister and team of positive secretaries. Madam, this is the historic budget. Everybody says it's a growth-oriented budget, but I'll say especially it is export growth-oriented budget. Because whatever we requested, you have already given all the schemes which we have asked for. This because you understand the export well as you are in a commerce minister. Madam, this PM Gati scheme, Gati Shakti scheme will really improve our infrastructure, especially that we are lack of manufacturing containers, which is the biggest problem now for the India. So you should ask your department encourage this container manufacturing and give the maximum support to the manufacturing of containers. Ma'am, this all other things which you have given, AG, LJSC, interest equalization scheme, everything is beneficial for us. And SEJ also you have given a special revamp the scheme. And also you have given that embellishment, import of embellishment, that's also great help to the manufacturing sector. Madam, this fixing of onus of importers in case of non-realization export procedure and excess issuance of ROTAP and or scrip is really hitting us. Because now the importers get the benefit. They buy the license for now 70 to 75%, whereas we don't, we get only very lesser amount. So what we have requested finance department is, please allow us to give the, or issue the scrip by producing the bank realization certificate, so that importer will not have the burden on thing, and also they are not buying from the, especially from MSC exporters, because when even the banks, they want to buy it for the gold imports, because they think that taking the onus on their side, it's the biggest. So please consider that. And another thing, ma'am, same in that now really because the time has gone, all the license may be given 2 years extension. The last one, ma'am, this, as I said, that container problem, again, after this war, it's a little more freight charges are increased. So you give me some support for the MSME sector for the freight we pay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Tarun, you or Somnathan, you want to say? Because that is something which you're working on anyway.
You, I think, have also sent in a suggestion to us on this, the scripts thing, that they should be allowed only after that it is confirmed that it is. Yeah. So we are working on it, and we'll soon come up with something on that. That suggestion is a very sensible and a very valid suggestion.
An extension of 2 years also.
What license is this?
No, the exim script can be extended for a validity for 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
So you want the validity to be increased?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Are you having a problem in selling your scripts now?
Yes, because the premium has come down so much. Nobody wants to buy it because they say that we will not take the responsibility of...
Partly because duties have been reduced. So the amount of scripts which can be used, because import duties have come down.
Not only, sir, what's happening, the onus of getting the realization after buying the script.
That point, no. Your first point on transferring the onus...
That's why the premium has come down.
No, but that's not the only reason. The amount of duties for which you can use script, the volume of import duties has come down because of cuts on edible oil, on so many other things. The market for customs duty payment has shrunk, in which these scripts have to use. But your point is on that is well taken.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Just, if I may supplement. On these ROTTEP scripts, I want to misuse this opportunity to just transmit something to you, since you're from the Federation of Indian Exporters Organizations. We constantly get requests saying that please increase the rate of ROTTEP on this, ROSCTL on this, please increase the budget, etc. I think it has been made very clear in the policy, it's part of the cabinet approval, and it is in the press release, that these schemes are now fund-limited schemes. It is not an entitlement at a certain percentage for any volume of exports. The total amount of subsidy per annum has been capped, and there is a budget for it. That budget will grow at 10% per annum. So I think it is important for the exporters organizations to be aware of this and have realistic expectations, and when any rate changes are suggested, they should be suggested keeping this framework in mind, because partly the PLI schemes are funded from the restructuring of the entire gamut of schemes. A certain amount has gone for PLI, a certain amount has been kept aside for ROTTEP and ROSCTL. So that is the fiscal envelope that's available. So within that, yes, changes can be made. And certainly procedural suggestions that you have just now made, that we'll certainly look at very sympathetically.
Thank you, sir. Next, Ms. Neena Reddy, Joint Managing Director, Savera Hotel and Shyam Group of Companies, Chennai.
It's a huge privilege to be sitting here and interacting with all of you. I thank the organizers for letting me in here. First of all, word of gratitude for what the central government has been doing for us as far as COVID is concerned. I think it has been keeping us safe. And on a very particular hospitality side, I would like to say that the Hotel Federation is already representing us on various aspects. Please look into that. especially the Export Promotion Capital Goods EPCG, waiver of the annual weighted average clause. It will be of immense benefit to the entire industry recovering from COVID. Foreign earnings are low due to the pandemic, and achieving annual weighted average is difficult. As far as GST is concerned, it has made life easier for us personally doing business, because I think the schemes are making things easier for us to work. Common GST slab for all services across the hotels. Currently, the 4-star hotels, we have different rates for rooms, which is 12%, F&B, which is 5%, etc. If across the hotel, GST is 5% for a 4-star hotel, it will enable growth. Business promotions. Campaign to promote tourism across the globe. Less time spent by the tourist on arrival at airports and immigration counters. First impression is the best impression, to incentivize travel partners. Recommendations. Enable infrastructure and industry status for the entire hotel industry. Appropriate legislation will be required ASAP, please. Treat all earnings from foreigners as foreign exchange. Tax benefits for individuals and corporate to promote domestic tourism. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Next we have Mr. K. Suresh, President, Hindustan Chamber of Commerce, Chennai.
Good morning, madam. Our hearty congratulations for presenting an excellent budget. We are having 3 issues, 2 on GST, 1 on taxation. India is the largest producer of millets in the world. United Nations General Assembly already declared 2023 as the year of millet. Many campaigns being held in our country to promote nutri-cereals across India. Government also, our central government also launched India's millet mission under the National Food Security Mission. So what our request is that as of today, when products based on flours of pulses is taxed at 5%, millet-based products may also be considered to be charged at the lower rate of 5% instead of 18%. This will definitely make the product affordable. It will be a step in the right direction in addressing the issue of malnutrition plaguing our country, combination of traditional Indian food with modern technology, processing and packaging can help the world rediscover the health benefits and refreshing the taste of food grains. This is the first issue which we are having. Next is this sailing yachts, sailing yachts. Mostly these yachts are used only for sports purposes, particularly Tamil Nadu having a longest coast. Now government also going to implement promotional activities for sports. And further, because of this development, we can send many people to the Olympics also. So when that is the situation, our request is that as of today, 18% being charged on the sailing yachts. Why can't we make it 5% so that, it will be promoting the sports, because mainly it is used for sports only. This is the second request, madam. The third one is on the taxation side. For equity capital market, it's a well-known fact that retail participation is slowly improving. There's no doubt about it. In order to improve further, definitely we should think differently. In the sense, the long-term capital gain which has been brought in, when the STT actually was brought in because of removing the long-term capital gain. But again, long-term capital gain also introduced sometimes back, rather few years back. The issue is that our idea, rather objective of the entire government is to improve the long-term savings of every citizen. So in order to do that, our request is that this long-term capital gain can be removed, so that the revenue neutralization definitely you will have from STT volume improvement. There's no doubt about it, because I think is a well-known fact that tax collected through long-term capital gain is not that much phenomenal figure. So my request is that to bring in more retail participation for the investment mode. I'm not talking about speculation mode, investment mode. My request is that please drop the long-term and see that definitely your revenue will be threefold because of STT volume that will come from STT also. Thank you.
On your wheat, millet, sailing yacht, I've taken the points, though there'll be issues. You know, you should also suggest to me what are the areas in which I can raise taxes, because the revenue neutral rate on for GST was 15.3. Today we are at 11.6. We are 4% down. And you will soon notice from 1st of July of this year, when the states will not get the compensation cess, their revenues will go down and they'll definitely face problems. So my request to you and to all of you sitting here is also to suggest that if I bring this down from 18 to 5, whatever I lose, what are the products or commodities? And you should go public with that so that people know that this is the demand of the people.
We'll do, sir. We'll do.
Second thing on LTCG, I want to share some figures with you. In the year 1920, I made 90, or I didn't make, people made 95,000 crores of capital, long-term capital gains. Can you beat it? 80% of those capital gains long-term were made by people earning 50 lakhs and more. So am I asking for this concession for people who are already, we are being accused of inequity in this country, that the rich are becoming richer and the poor are becoming poorer. If this, any relief is given, it will be given to people earning, and I can assure you that this year, it will not be 80%, it will be 90%, the way people have traded in the market this year. So I think we should actually, if you compare yourself with other countries, you will notice that the other countries are charging capital, long-term capital gains tax at the applicable rate or at 25%, 30%. These are the kind of rates. In India, we have 10%. And what long-term? It is 12 months only. So I completely disagree with you that giving a relief will really, it will only increase the pockets of a few, it will increase money in the pockets of a few people. 10% is too low for a long-term capital gains tax.
No, sir. Our suggestion is that you can bring in some cap for the consideration of this long-term, exemption of long-term capital gain. I agree with you.
It's already there up to 1 lakh.
1 lakh?
1 lakh,
One
no,
lakh
that's
is
why,
tax-free.
that's not sufficient, that's what I'm saying.
No, why? So basically the whole idea is that I am not ready to pay these taxes. And I think the rich are saying that. That is the unfortunate part. It is not the poor who are saying that, or the middle class that is saying. I've told you, 80% of the long-term capital gains have been made by people earning 50 lakhs and more per annum. These 50 lakhs and more would constitute about 0.1 or 0.12% of the population of this country. Please don't ask for these tax concessions. It is quite embarrassing.
No, so you can increase the limit, sir. That's
Why should we increase the limit? I think the limit should go away for people earning more than 20 lakhs. They should pay, if I make money, I should pay taxes. That should be the principle. Not that I'll make money, I'll not pay taxes. This poor man will make money, he'll pay taxes.
No, sir. STT we brought in because of this only. That's why
I would say, I'll give you a counter proposal that I'll make it applicable rate, which in your case might be 42%, and remove the STT. Is that fine?
No. So this millet and sailing yacht, yeah, please.
Next, we move on to Dr. Nalli Kuppaswamy, Managing Director, Nalli Silks Private Limited, Chennai.
மதிப்பிற்குரிய மத்திய நிதியமைச்சர் திருமதி நிர்மலா சீதாராமன் அவர்களே, அரசு உயர் அதிகாரிகளே, சக தொழில் வர்த்தகத்துறை நண்பர்களே, வணக்கம். டெக்ஸ்டைல் ட்ரேடில் நாங்கள் எல்லோரும் திருப்தியாக இருக்கோம். இந்த பட்ஜெட்னால நல்லது தான் தவிர எங்களுக்கு குறைன்னு சொல்கிறதுக்கு ஒன்றும் இல்லை. தயவுசெய்து மன்னிக்கணும், நான் தமிழில் பேசுகிறது எனக்கு சுலபமாக இருக்கின்ற காரணத்தினால. ஆனால் இந்த சந்தர்ப்பத்தில் மத்திய அரசின் செயல்பாடு பட்ஜெட்டு சம்மந்தப்படாது ஒரு பாராட்டு சொல்லலாம்னு நினைக்கிறேன். மாண்புமிகு அமைச்சர் எனக்கு அனுமதி கொடுத்த 2 நிமிஷம். நான் 2018 ஒரு தரம் பாம்பேக்கு போயிட்டு இருக்கும். என் பக்கத்தில் ஒருத்தர் உட்காந்துருந்தார். அவர் நான் விசிட்டிங் கார்டு கொடுத்தேன். அவர் விசிட்டிங் கார்டு கொடுத்து அவர் கன்ஸ்ட்ரக்ஷன் கம்பெனி நடத்திட்டு இருந்தார். அவர் சொன்னார், அப்போது 2014 நம்ம அரசு பொறுப்புக்கு வந்தது, அதுக்கு 4 வருஷம் கழிச்சு. அவர் சொன்னார், நிறைய விஷயங்கள் அரசில் மாறுதல் நல்லது நடந்திருக்கு, பொதுமக்களுக்கு தெரியறதில்லை. எங்களை மாதிரி அரசோட சம்மந்தம் உள்ளவங்களுக்கு தான் தெரியறது. நீங்கள் தெரிஞ்சுக்க நீங்கள் 4 பேர் சொல்லலாம்னு சொன்னார். எனக்கு அதுக்கப்புறம் சந்தர்ப்பம் கிடைக்கல, இங்கே அதை பற்றி சொல்லணும்னு நினைக்கிறேன். பெரிய பெரிய கான்ட்ராக்ட்ஸ் எடுத்து அவங்க செஞ்சுட்டு இருந்தாங்க. அப்போ ஏதோ ஒரு கான்ட்ராக்ட் அரசு வந்த பிறகு ஒரு கான்ட்ராக்ட் கொடுத்துருந்தாங்க. பட் ரொம்ப டெக்னாலஜி, மாடர்ன் டெக்னாலஜி உபயோகப்படுத்த வேண்டிய ஒரு கான்ட்ராக்ட். ஆகையினால அவங்க ஒரு இட்டாலியன் கம்பெனி அவங்களோட பார்ட்னர்ஷிப் சேர்த்துட்டு அதை செய்ய ஆரம்பித்தாங்க. அவர் சொன்னார் அப்போ ஒரு பிளான் அவங்க அங்கேருந்து கொடுக்குறாங்க, எல்லாமே இமெயில் மூலியமாக தான். அதை பார்த்துட்டு இவங்க அனுப்பிச்ச பிறகு அவங்க அப்ரூவல் கொடுத்த பிறகு நீங்கள் ஒர்க் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணுங்க அப்படின்னு சொல்லியிருந்தாங்க. ஆனால் எந்த ஒரு காரணத்துக்காக நீங்கள் செக்ரட்டேரியட்டுக்கு அலைய வேண்டாம், அந்த ஒர்க் கண்டக்டர் இருங்க, அங்கே எதாவது சந்தேகங்கள் இருந்தால் பிளான் எங்கள் இன்ஜினியர் போய் அவர்கிட்ட கேட்டுங்கன்ட்டு. ஒர்க்கு நடக்கும்போது ஒவ்வொரு வாரம் எதர் சாட்டர்டே ஒரு மண்டேன்னு வச்சுங்க, நீங்கள் பில்லு போட்டு அனுப்பிச்சிங்க, அதுவும் இமெயிலில் தான். உங்களுக்கு 24 ஹவர்ஸில் உங்கள் அக்கௌண்ட்டில் கிரெடிட் ஆகிடும் உங்கள் அமௌண்ட்டு அப்படின்ட்டு. அப்படி கிரெடிட் ஆகலைன்னா நீங்கள் வந்து பிஎம் ஆஃபீஸ்க்கு ஒரு கம்ப்ளைண்ட், அது இது இமெயில் மூலியமாக அனுப்புங்கன்ட்டு. நாங்கள் ஒர்க் ஆரம்பித்து 1 வருஷம் ஆச்சு, இது வரைக்கும் நான் பிஎம் ஆஃபீஸ்க்கு கம்ப்ளைண்ட் பண்ணுற மாதிரி ஒரு நிகழ்ச்சியும் இல்லை. நாங்கள் எங்கள் டைம் பூரா உனக்கு ஸ்பாட்டில் இருக்கோம், எங்கேயும் அலையிறதில்லை, எங்கேயும் காத்துட்டுருக்கிறது இல்லைன்னு. இதை நான் உங்களுக்கு யாருக்காவது சொல்லணும்னு நினச்சிட்டு இருந்தேன். சம்மந்தப்பட்டவங்க இருக்கும்போது சொல்கிறதுக்கு ஒரு வாய்ப்பு கிடைச்சிது. எல்லாரும் திருப்தியாக இருக்கும், யாருக்கும் ஒரு விதமான குறையும் இல்லை. நான் என்னுடைய ட்ரேடு சம்மந்தப்பட்ட வரைக்கும் சொல்கிறேன். நன்றி சொல்கிற ஒரு வாய்ப்பாக தான் இந்த சந்தர்ப்பத்தை நான் எடுத்துக்கொண்டேன். நீங்கள் வாய்ப்பு கொடுத்ததுக்கு நன்றி, வணக்கம்.
I think we will be having time only for one more question. Though we will stop at the questions, people who have their comments or those who have some suggestions can still put in their queries to us by mail, and we will see that the team gets those specific comments so that they can probably look up and take decisions based on them later. So the last question will be from J. Chandrasekharan from Watson Envirotech Private Limited.
Thank you, madam. I'm a startup, and I'm happy to say that the ease of handling documents or getting registered or doing anything online through the startup initiative is really commendable. Past 7 years, I've never visited any government office. Thank you. The point is, we are doing natural water purifiers which are non-electricity based, but there is no, in the lexicon of GST, water purifier at all. It comes under the industrial category, under liquid and gas purification system. So we request, and the GST is also 18%. We request you to make it 5%, so that these non-electricity based standalone filters can be given to the rural poor. In spite of this Jal Jeevan mission, water goes to the last mile through the tap, but whether it is potable or not is a big question. We have done close to 4 lakh households, which is the technology from CSIR. And this is the only product which is accredited by DST and also in the Jal mission. Since GST came, I had been putting this request again and again. In fact, the old VAT had 5%. So if you could make it 5% for non-electricity based water purifiers, that would be a great help for the poor people. Thank you, madam. Thanks for the opportunity.
We come to the end of this post-budget interaction with representatives from the industry and trade. To just summarize what we had discussed here, this morning the Honorable FM set the tone with remarks about growth-oriented budget, and the discussion continued with participation from all sectors of economy. We had large and medium enterprises, we had small and micro units, fresh startups, we had associations representing various sectors, and the questions were varied, and comments, queries and suggestions also were put forth. We had a few issues which were discussed, including providing industry status for tourism and hospitality, extension of R&D facilities in the countries, incentives to improve women participation in workforce, enabling an ecosystem for technology, mechanisms to invigorate the textile mill sector, investments into health infrastructure, review of health insurance rates by the government, systematic interventions for capital infusion in industry, blended finance for the pharma sector, resolution for nationwide logistics and transportation of bulk material, budgetary allocation for education. We had a query on PLI for chemicals and rationalization of import duty structure. We had mechanisms to further strengthen export competitiveness, especially on scrips. There was a request for reduction in the rate of long-term capital gains, And we also had an issue relating to the incentives for social enterprises, especially in the environment sector. So that was what we had time to discuss today. As we come to the end of this program, I place on record heartfelt gratitude to each and every person present here today who represented their sector with their queries, comments, and suggestions. You have made this program a success with your meaningful participation. We thank Madam Nirmla Sitaraman, Union Minister for Finance and Corporate Affairs, for leading the discussion and responding to the queries raised here. Heartfelt gratitude to the panel of secretaries from the ministry who have accompanied Madam and who have added their valuable comments wherever required to make the discussion fruitful. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, we had a few more questions, but we could not put them before the Honorable Minister. We will take it up and pass it on to the team in Delhi.